Okay.
Morning, guys. Been watching some comments and questions on the Facebook page. We're working on the bedroom slide on our Cougar, and I wanted to just do a quick walk around so everybody can see it. I've looked and looked and looked, and I never could find a video that actually showed a torn apart slide. So here's the components. The inside, when we broke this thing apart, the inside was all Luan. Between the Luan and the exterior, this, and this cavity was filled with just a real thin layer of rock wool. I wouldn't call that insulation. We're going back with 1.5 inch rigid styrofoam, obviously. We're gonna glue all this together. Put a piece of Luan on the outside of it, which we already threw the piece away, but it's Luan and a little bit of, it looks like fill-in or I'm not sure what they used. It might have been fiberglass, but anyway, it was leaking inside around the window. And then we found all kinds of issues. There's, obviously you need insulation right here, and the more the better. These tubes are 1.5 inches, so 1.5 inch styrofoam goes back in super simple. But every single one of these tubes is hollow. So I've got insulation here, but this piece in the summertime is going to get to whatever temperature the sun's going to heat it up to, which is going to make the inside also heat up, and it's going to turn into this great big radiant box, and that's what we had going on. So we're actually going to drill some holes in here, put some low expansion foam in, and fill all of these tubes up with foam. We'll fill that up with some spray foam, but everything's going to be put together with foam. There's 3/4 inch plywood on the bottom that gets screwed up. The plate gets screwed up from the bottom. We're going to put some more screws in. We're going to put some more screws in here once we get this all put together, but zip screws from the bottom, and then they made a panel. They started with the bottom, put the back panel on, put the 2 side panels on, and then put the top panel on, and they had the Luan on when they did each panel, so it's all sandwiched together. So bottom, back panel, side panels, both side panels, and then the top panel. And the top panel's got a piece of Luan, and then it's open, and then there's another piece of Luan on top of that. And all we're doing to cut this stuff is just a real simple flush cut bit. We get it set up, adjust the height, flush cut it, and it's real simple to just literally cut all this. So the other issue that we had, take this down, ignore this piece because it's not cut yet. This is the top panel and what it looks like from the factory. They just welded this thing together. It's pretty square. It's pretty square and straight. I was actually really surprised by that. But again, all this is just a hollow aluminum tube. Fill it all up with styrofoam, make it a little more solid. That'll make it more rigid, and obviously it'll cut down on our heat. But this plate lives up here like this. You pick the whole thing up and put it into the camper. It attaches to the slide mechanism in the camper up front. We'll get into that in a later video. And then this piece goes up and screws in like this, and that's what you see. There's a trim piece that goes over this that's got finish nails in it, but all they did was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 screws, and they're a coarse thread, basically construction screwed, and you can see here where they screwed it in. And that's the only thing holding the slide other than the bottom mechanism. That's the only thing from holding the slide from falling out. What we've done is gone in with, can you see that? in the video. We've gone in from the back side with rib nuts. We've drilled the hole out here. We've got our measurements so we know where it's at. So once this whole thing gets put back together, assembled, the structure's all done, it's all glued together, it's screwed together, it's all one big piece. We're gonna mark our holes of where these rib nuts are. We're gonna, once we get it back in the camper, we're gonna have all this ready to go. And then instead of a screw that goes through a little piece of aluminum, and I don't even think that's a full thread. So if you count it up, you might have had 5 threads holding this top piece together. Instead of doing that, we're gonna have, drill a hole, put a bolt through it. It'll be a flush bolt. We can countersink those super easy. And then it'll go all the way through the aluminum into the back side. So this whole thing, and it'll be filled with foam. So it's gonna be super, super hard to crush. And it'll tighten everything up. That'll unify everything together and make this thing a whole bunch stronger than it ever was. There was no insulation on the bottom. We haven't obviously put it back together yet, but when we put it back together, we'll show another video. But the bed frame actually goes in here. I think what we're gonna do is put a sheet of styrofoam on the bottom after we put the bed frame down, get all that in. And then we can put a finished carpet or whatever we do inside here. We haven't got that far yet, but that's the way this thing's built. It's really simple construction. When we took it out of the camper, we took these pieces off from the inside. And you just pull the trim panel off. It's in with finish nails. And once the trim panel was off, we saw the screws. We took the screws out. We took the bracket that goes in here, which is literally just a bolted on piece of angle iron. Once that was done, we took these 2 skids, stacked them up, put them underneath the slide, so it's still in the camper, used the forklift, raised the whole thing up, got it nice and basically loose from the gaskets and everything. We just shoved it out. I don't think this thing weighs 50 pounds, so it wasn't that big a deal. When we get into the living room and the kitchen slides, obviously, they're going to be heavier, but it's not crazy. This is the back side, or the outside panel that we brought out. You can see the water damage where things failed. But this is the outside of the camper. Here's our fancy designs. This is what it looks like. It's a piece of thick Luan, and then there's a real thin layer that's glued onto here. We've got a whole different system that we're going to put together that's going to seal this whole thing up. We'll get into that later, but this piece goes onto the outside framing, and then this piece with this flange, this piece goes into, let's walk around here and just show it. I guess we are doing a video. So this flange bolts to or screws to the top of this, down the sides, down the bottom and everything. So this flange fits in here. From the factory, they had this butyl tape to begin with, and then there was a piece of TPO on top of that. They had, the TPO was screwed down with a piece of plastic, and then they had just some sealant going along the top. And this is all maintenance and weak points. We're fixing all of that stuff. We'll get into it in a different video, but this is how this thing's put together. And if you were as scared of it as I was to tear this thing apart, don't be, because once you get into it, it's super simple construction. And honestly, if you've got any kind of good DIY construction ability, you can do it. If you've got any questions, send me a message. I'll help you out. Campers help each other out, and we are definitely campers. So this is the last thing I'm going to show you. If you can't figure out what's screwed in, or how it's put together, chances are it's a finish nail. They're literally taking these little nails and using some kind of power fastener, and they shoot them in. The top piece was held, the whole thing's held. You can actually see how many they shot into this thing, and when they get to a corner, they just shoot a whole bunch. Every corner on the inside, there's like 6 or 7 or 8. It's like bang, 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 and then they go on. And it's just a finished nail into aluminum. That was their plan to hold this thing together. And actually, this camper is 11 years old, so it did a pretty good job of holding it together. But it's not going back that way. We don't do that crap around here. So anyway, that's the slide construction. It's pretty straightforward. I tried to cover everything. If you've got questions, shoot me a message. I'm here to help you guys out. But we're going to get going on this thing. It's almost 9 o'clock, and we've been here talking about this thing for an hour almost. But anyway, we've got a busy day. I'll do another recap. We're going to start posting some stuff. But anyway, that's what's up. Thanks. Have a good day.